Okay.
Mm,
So,
Let me see. Let me say it's about to go live on my YouTube, but just casual convo. I'll let you know when it's
and I should get something. I feel like getting a
let's see.
hat or something.
All
So
right.
I should put shades on. This light annoying. It's bright. It's annoying. But
Right,
anyway.
right. We live
Okay.
in
Well.
we live in direct, but it's all good. It's
Okay.
with on my channel we keep it casual. We keep it
Okay.
yeah. But anyway, we have Dr. Randy Short in the building, the real Nordic Black family, the historian, author, researcher, a lot of things I'm sure I'm missing there. I know you're a contributor too on the Press TV.
Yes.
Also, and you've been in plenty of documentary films, including the latest one with Tariq Nasheed, the American Maroon.
Mhm.
Also, you were in Buck Breaking as well, correct?
Right.
Right. And like I said, you have a list of documentary films that you've been a part of, and I couldn't even start to name, all of them. But yeah, and I, I've saw you on well, yeah, on Tariq Nasheed's I guess his YouTube channel, whatever. That's where I first heard of you, and then I went over to Dwan B, where you've been a part,
Okay.
yeah, with the music and all of that, and
Yes.
how you was just breaking it down with him on the music history and the foundational Black Americans. I'm American, I'm African American, but I live in Oslo, Norway. Um,
Okay.
so uh, yeah, and I loved how you guys gave that breakdown, and also like I said, not just music, but you talked more, about history, international relations,
Mhm.
um, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, I was wondering first how you so how did you get started with well, a little bit of your bio. Where are you from? Where are you
Well,
from? Are you
I, I'm from Washington D.C.
right? Right.
and hmm,
You
and
like where are you gonna start, huh?
well, no, no. I'll make it easy.
Right.
I'm from Washington D.C. and like a lot of people that are Black Americans, you have a very diverse heritage,
Absolutely.
uh, which is inclusive of, I guess, depending on who's counting, Scandinavian is a significant part of my
Mm,
heritage, which
awesome.
is Danish and Swedish.
Right.
Um, and by the way, my boss is the same. There are a lot of Black American people who have Danish, Swedish, and Norwegian ancestry by way of the Vikings that went and settled in Normandy
Right.
and later took over England. So a lot of us are the descendants of the Vikings from
Right.
like 1,500 years ago.
Right.
Go figure.
Right. And so what well like I said, I said some of your, I guess, resume or whatever. And so how'd you get started with when dealing with Black history or whatnot? What got you
well,
started with studying Black history and
well,
stuff like that?
I guess from infancy, basically,
Right.
because I'm 58 years old, so that's the first year of the X generation. But I was born in the pivotal year of 1965, which
Right.
is right towards the tail end of the civil rights movement and uh,
COINTELPRO and all that, right?
COINTELPRO all kicked off in '65,
Right.
and Malcolm X's house was bombed,
Mm,
and set on fire about 4 days after I was born, and Malcolm X was killed within
mm,
2.5 weeks of my birth, and I can recall when Dr. King was murdered when I was 3,
right. Right.
and so and we lived as a family We were the first Black family in a white area, which was quite interesting and very difficult. So
Right.
um, I don't think I chose to know about history. This was thrust on me
Right.
by life circumstances and then things not quite making sense. And so going to school and uh, learning things like Indians are uncivilized, and yet my family is also part Native
Right.
American.
Right.
So I'm trying to figure out what are these people talking about? Indians living in teepees.
Mm.
My grandparents are property owners. My grandfather has a cab company.
Right.
He doesn't ride a horse. What are they talking about, right?
Mm.
And so and other things. So over the course of life, um, if you learn all kinds of things, I grew up with people from all over the world, and even people from Africa uh, who are Egyptian, who weren't white
Right.
and weren't as dark as I was. So all these contradictions make you ask questions. So, and a lot of children learn about racism early from their
Early.
parents.
Right.
So
Definitely.
if you have white parents that teach their kids to hate people who are Black or non-white, you're being attacked over what the stereotypes and the bigotry that the parents put in their children. Someone comes at you and says that you're a slave, you're a this,
Right.
I mean, this, what are they talking about? I'll
Right.
give you a quick story. We had neighbors that lived exactly across the street in front of our house. They moved in, and I was kind of excited because it was a kid my age who's a white boy. And I figured, oh, there'd be someone else to play with. And I remember going out of the house on Saturday
Hmm.
and this boy running out of his house. And instead of saying, hi, my name is, he proceeds to tell me that I'm inferior to him. My people are slaves.
Mm.
Uh, I'm a nigger. Oh, I mean, this is like,
Right.
wow. And I noticed that his mother is watching, kind of semi-concealed behind the curtain, that coached him on what to say to me.
Wow. That's crazy.
So this is like, wow. And you guys, you don't belong here. You need to go back to Africa. And I don't know. I've always had a comeback for people. It took me forever. It must have been about this must have been 1969
Mm.
because
Okay. Pretty
I
young.
didn't start talking till I was 4.5. It's a long time.
Right.
Um, when he told me, you need to go back to Africa and your people are African, I told him I would love to live in Africa as long as there weren't people like him there.
Right.
Great.
Right.
If there are no more nasty people like you, I would love to live in Africa.
Right. Right.
He ran in his house crying, and I went in my house and I started looking up Africa, and it was too big. Africa
Right.
was it was just too much to claim all of it for a
Right.
country. And so I thumbed through this. We had all this set of encyclopedias, and Algeria didn't do anything for me, but Angola, kind of cool. And
Right.
by the way, I have ancestry from Angola. I picked that as my homeland.
Right.
Since if it pissed this guy off, by the way,
Go figure.
whatever I said to him upset him so badly, the family moved. So you learn the power of history. Yeah, they moved to just
Wow.
but
Wow.
the mother wanted that boy to destroy me mentally or
Right.
move him somewhere where he didn't encounter Black people with any dignity to withstand the kind of assault. But it's in school, and in
Right.
the school you had all kinds of racist songs and racist books and justifications for slavery. All of this stuff.
Right.
Um, it just it didn't make sense to me. And the other problem is, I remember going to a family reunion and I'm thinking, wow, um, I'm thinking family's going to look like me, right? I was aghast because the family ranged from blonde-haired, blue-eyed people to a few jet black people. And if you were taught that there are three races, yellow, black, and white, and your family's got like way more color than the human spectrum they teach you in school, and black people with blonde hair, blue eyes,
Right.
my cousins, you mean I have black family whiter than the kids who spit on me and throw rocks at me for being black in school? You mean I asked what the hell is going on here? Wait. They're blonde hair, blue eyes, they're black. And the brunette, brown-eyed people in school that call me nigger are white. And my grandfather looks sort of Chinese. My uncle looks like Chiang Kai-shek, the last non-communist ruler of China. And I'm thinking this race, this something. I'm confused
Right.
because I
Right.
thought there's absolutes. And so I learned at an early age that almost everything that's being put before me is a lie. And since I had people in my family that are Indian, the story about Thanksgiving, we didn't need white people to feed us.
Right.
But I mean, it's just, and my folks are Eastern Indians. We didn't eat buffalo. We ate deer.
Right.
And
Right.
so
Right.
I was always in trouble from pre-kindergarten all the way through school because, I can't go for certain things.
Right. Right.
And then the other thing is to say
So
that
some ignorance and some deliberate,
yeah, well,
Yeah.
but it's deeper than that. Think of
Right.
it this way. Um, if on top of that, my family's very religious, and you're
Right.
taught that everybody comes from one man and one woman, Adam and Eve, and there's one God that made everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then this racism and all this other stuff is evil. It's of Satan, and therefore, yet they're teaching it in school.
Right.
The best thing that you can do is get your own books. So what my parents would do is they would go and bring us lots of books from an independent black bookstore that they eventually found a way to shut down.
Right.
You'll
Right.
find that the black bookstores are under attack by the government. But literally what books I had at home contradicted the textbooks at school.
Hmm.
So that's sort of where all this came. I mean, hearing that black people have no civilization and all this, it just,
They're trying to bring.
it,
I mean, it seems like they're trying to bring that back now in modern
well,
times.
they,
So,
they,
or
they
they
can't bring, they can't bring it back.
right. Well, I mean, the
It's,
the banning of the books and I mean,
well,
they're
now that's on us. You
right.
should learn who the hell you are at home.
Right. Right.
That's the other side of learning history and so
Right.
forth, is the people who internalize racism and accept the lies and the myths of people that hate their guts and try to pretend that no one black ever did anything because someone white said. Again, back to religion, the scriptures say, let God be true and every man a liar. So if the Bible says in Genesis 10, right, that the earliest civilizations were started by the so-called black guy Ham and all of that, if the Bible's the word of God and God's always right, then I couldn't care flying fuck about what a racist white person or a self-hating black person says. I have this here.
Oh,
You should get a copy of it.
oh,
It's a
okay.
slave
The Negro
Bible.
Bible, the Slave Bible. Got you.
Yeah, this is a Xerox. This is like someone went in and Xerox the entire slave Bible. This
Okay.
was a document that was used to confuse, bamboozle, and teach black people to accept that white people, their natural was you're subhuman, just be a slave, shut up, let them rape you, pick the cotton,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll go to heaven if you kiss our ass. And it's very interesting in this Negro Bible.
Right.
It skips Genesis 10. This is a Bible where a white racist apostate cut and paste out of the Bible every kind of scripture that would give you any sense of worth or value if you were black. And so they'll give you a Bible, but it has to be a Bible that a white supremacist approved.
Right.
and they took out Genesis 10. I bought this just to prove that they would take Genesis 10 out, because if you read a real Bible, Genesis 10 points out all the early civilizations. I started by the person that they claim to be black, which is Ham.
Right.
It's the curse of Ham.
Right.
It
Right.
says Ham either screwed Noah in the
No.
behind or screwed Noah's concubine or something. So we all have to be people's slaves
Right.
because of this curse. Well, if Ham is like the ancestor to Nimrod, who started Babylon, then all civilization starts with black people. Says the Bible, says the word of God, says since white people are the ones that introduced us to Christianity, which is not true, then they have no standing.
Right.
The biggest problem we have is that we are idolaters. We worship white people, whatever white people say. We would eat the bowel movement out of the rectums of white people. We're off to us as ice cream.
I feel you on
Because
that
it's
one.
white urine is champagne.
Mm.
Wouldn't touch black piss, but
Mm.
white piss, nothing sweeter, right? And this is a mindset that happens.
No
But
doubt.
if I open up this Bible here, it skips. It skips. If I show you Genesis, it literally, they absolutely did not want these so-called slaves that they were introducing
have any sense of empowerment whatsoever.
but look,
Yeah.
this is Genesis chapter 8, right?
Right. Right.
It's 8. Let me turn the page. And it goes to 18.
Okay.
So it skips 9, 10, 11,
Wow.
12, 13, 14, 15,
Right.
16, 17. Then it starts back up at 18. This is how they've lied about everything. This is a good, simple example. If you said you believe in God and you truly are committed to it, and you have a holy text and you mutilate it, so that's the other side. That shows how much people hate our guts.
Right.
That they're willing to destroy their own holy writ to kick us in the face. But so this it's not there, and then their whole portions, it does Exodus. Let me see if it has Exodus 2 in here, because I'm wondering. I went through here just looking. Exodus, it doesn't do the whole thing. Oh wow. For Exodus, when it talks about the plagues and all this stuff coming down to destroy the Egyptians for holding the Hebrews, that's removed from the slave Bible. Wow. These bastards have a guilt complex that if we appeal to God, God might destroy them. So don't even bring up the fact that God will intervene on the behalf of slaves. So Exodus, they skip. Let me show you. They skip, literally, you say you believe this thing, and Exodus starts off on chapter 19.
Okay.
So they skip 18 through 19. Wow. Okay. So Moses killing the Egyptian for beating the Hebrews in Exodus 2, that's not there. Wow. The genocide and the enslavement of the Hebrews, it's not in the slave Bible.
Okay.
These people have never even practiced the Christianity that they say they believe in relationship to Black people on a global basis. Right. And it goes on and on. But I will say this, and I'll get off of this book. In Revelations, it says, if you take from or add to the scriptures, God curses you. So where does that put our wonderful apostate, blasphemer, white Christian, so-called Christian friends? It puts them in hell. There are multi-generations of people that are going to spend eternity in fire and damnation for putting together some crap like this, instead of teaching people that the scriptures, you're supposed to love your neighbor and help your neighbor. That's proof that you have a relationship with Yahushua, the Most High God, not segregating, genociding, enslaving, credit redlining, profiling, racially killing, mass incarcerating, poisoning, stealing resources, colonizing, neo-colonizing. That it's a work of Satan who comes to kill, steal, and destroy, as the Gospel of John 10:10 teaches.
Right.
So
Um.
between life's experiences and actually coming up where you actually were taught what the Bible said, and there are a lot of really ignorant Black folks they've gotten into a lot of stupid religions and all because they've got this slave Bible and on the brain, but not an actual Bible. They don't have to believe, but damn it, know what the book says. Not a book cherry picked by someone that hated you, but the actual book written by Black people thousands of years ago versus a book cherry picked by racists trying to justify enslaving the descendants of the people that wrote the book.
Right.
Real talk. Moving right along. Next point.
Yeah, and then I heard John Henry Clark said, we Black people out Muhammad and out Christian any Christian when it comes to certain religions. We end up always
but my point is that's not Christianity. So
no, absolutely.
I would like for John Henry Clark and the other people, he's deceased, to be honest that these people weren't practicing Christianity. Maybe the people are practicing Islam, but they're not practicing Christianity. They're practicing variations of different European ethnic group nationalism vis-a-vis people that they were conquering, enslaving, genociding, and stealing their property. That's what they've been doing.
Right. Man. Now, you I've heard you talk a lot about the guy Harold Cruz, who you worked with before, correct?
I didn't work with, but I met him and had a wonderful opportunity to spend a weekend with him back in 1986.
And there was that work that I remember I saw you in the not only Dwan B, also on Philip Shock Matthews.
Yes.
Talking
I
about.
just spoke to him. I think he's a cousin of mine. We just finished talking. Mm-hmm.
Right. No, you hold up the book by him called Rebellion or
Rebellion or Revolution.
Or Revolution.
I don't have it, but I can go get it.
But yeah, no, I was listening to.
Do you want a copy? I have a PDF copy of Rebellion or Revolution. If you want, I can send that to you. You should share it.
Yeah, that would be cool.
As soon as this is over, maybe I can do it right now. I can open up my computer and I can send you that so you can have it. It's a wonderful book, and you don't even have to read the whole thing. If you read pages from like about page 68 to about 150, it's a very worthwhile experience. Harold Cruz had several books: The Crisis of the Negro Intellectual, Plural but Equal, and of course Rebellion or Revolution. Those are his three best works.
And you definitely put me on that one there, because I didn't know so much about
Harold
him.
Cruz is deeply hated by by our Black trader elite. We have a lot of scammers. Our oppression, since you're in Norway, and one of my favorite Norwegian villains, Vidkun Quisling, who was Hitler's man that ran Norway. He betrayed the king of Norway, and he was working with the Germans against against his own people. That's
and I remember you told me that you was watching, you checked out Narvik. I was like, wow. I didn't know you knew about
as I said, I have Danish ancestry, significantly, or Scandinavian. So we're looking at low ball number. I'm about 9% Danish, Swedish, Norwegian. Low ball, it could be a little bit more. So round it out, make it 10. I don't know how this works out. I'm just telling you. But I had very good friends from Denmark, and I've always been interested in. There were a couple of movies, very good movies, about the Norwegian resistance to the Nazis. So
the
I'm
Max
very
Manus,
interested in
Max Manus
World War
one.
II.
Yeah.
Guns of Navarone. There are a
Yeah.
range of films. There was a movie that what's his name? He's a character actor, Robinson,
Okay.
Eugene Robinson, and they played the Norwegian resistance, and
Right.
they're trying to escape, and there's a collaborator who's giving away the resistance, and they kill him in a lifeboat, and they're able to
Right.
get to a submarine and get back to England. And I love that movie because we're going to have to strangle some black folks or do something to them. Well, to
Right.
get
Right.
them to stop selling us out.
Right. Right. You're very critical on the calling out coons and the media and stuff like that. What do you think about the new black media? The so-called
Um,
new black
I
media
think
and
that I think the new black media is, it can be even more independent, but it's making an
right,
impact. I follow I
the
think I
Black
listen
Truth
to
and Jason Black
Professor
or
Black
Professor
Truth is
Truth.
the person I listen to the most.
Right.
I think
I think
that
I do too. Yeah.
I think that
He's a sharp brother. Yeah.
he does a great job at getting at certain issues.
Right.
And
In a concise
sometimes I
manner.
listen to Black Authority,
Right.
and that's about it. I don't like my own voice, so I don't listen to the stuff I do typically,
Mm.
except I just want to make certain that my jokes are good.
Right. Right.
So like I have two.
Yeah,
I
you're
just
pretty
need to
witty.
put.
You're pretty witty for sure.
I want to give you two while I'm. Tell me, what are the first three letters on your email so I can send you this Harold Cruz thing?
COR
COR.
AL Coral Reef. It was.
Okay, Robert Gillian.
Yep, that's
Okay,
me.
I'm
Yep.
forwarding to you the Harold Cruz thing. I just sent it to you.
Okay. Cool.
And so, since I did you a favor, you can let me tell my bad Kamala Harris jokes. What's
Oh,
Kamala Harris's favorite fruit?
favorite fruit. Ooh, I wouldn't know that one. I don't know.
Kumquats.
Wow, man.
Okay, and what does Kamala Harris have in common with a business that had water damage?
I don't know that one.
Industrial blowers.
Damn.
Now, cool. Someone's
I,
gonna
I,
laugh at that.
she,
They're gonna figure
she,
that out. And
she's definitely been in the media these days for going to Ghana and
she
then
has nothing to say.
right,
I
right.
heard she broke down and cried
Cried
at
at the fortress, right.
well, she cried because she's running out of lies and excuses to be against reparations for us.
And
I
her
went to
pastor,
Howard. I went
her
to Howard at the same time as her,
wow, wow.
and what I recall of her sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha, is that the young woman used to go down to 14th Street and role play prostitutes as part of their rushing the sorority. And so 14th Street is where all the hoes or
Mm,
prostitutes or whatever
right,
you call them,
right.
it over there. And I'm wondering, because she pledged during that time, did Kamala Harris role play being a whore on
Mm,
14th Street over by the Sutton Plaza dormitory? I'm waiting to get an answer. I think the answer is yes.
right,
Now, I don't know if she actually went further than role playing to see if someone would try to pick him up, or did they actually like do the duty?
right,
Plus, they were snorting cocaine to be able to stay up and go through all the hours of being initiated into the sorority.
right, right.
I had a friend that was online with her, and I remember teasing her like I was snorting cocaine and falling over and making the sound that the sorority makes.
Mm,
That's real talk. I'm not sorry. Kamala Harris is not a Black American. She is a Tamil Nadu
mm,
descendant Indian.
mm,
She's a Tamil Brahmin, and she
right.
has nothing to do with us.
And,
And I'm sick and tired of the parasitism.
right. And I know also not only her, but like you stated about the reparations that she's known for saying, talking kind of against reparations
Well,
for
but she's
only
providing
specific
reparations.
only for black people, and then
She's
also
providing
the
reparations exclusively for Indians and hiring throughout the U.S. government.
Right.
So she does believe in reparations, just not for us.
That's what I
We're
meant.
good
Yeah.
enough to be used to advance
Right.
her and her caste Brahmin Hindus, but
Mm,
not us.
wow. And then I think that was the was it the Amos, Reverend Amos or something in San Francisco?
I'm
What
calling
is that?
him Amos Brown.
Right. Was that her pastor or something like that, right?
Yes, that is her
Yeah.
pastor.
And so he also was like, yeah,
Well, the NAACP
trying to,
just got $50 million. The NAACP in California got $50 million from Wells Fargo.
right,
Go figure. Why all of a sudden he comes out and trashes reparations for Black people. And
right,
then a bank that Kamala Harris allowed to defraud Black people out of tens of millions of dollars in California and did not fulfill her job as Attorney General to investigate and prosecute Wells Fargo for defrauding Black borrowers and Black depositors. Okay.
mm,
They give Kamala Harris's pastor or the group that her pastor's in $50 million. If you don't see that's a payoff, then you're
right,
blind.
right, right. You talk a lot about Black intelligence and stuff like that, and the scholars that are not so popular and that are dismissed, unlike the Skip Gates of the world and the
Skip Gates is an entrepreneur. He's good at getting white money behind whatever project he wants. So there's going to be a lot of production and lots of things he can get done because you can pay people to do it.
right,
It's like Harvard in general. I'm a Harvard graduate. Maybe the people weren't geniuses, but if you put all the books and all the teaching fellows, you even had people to help people do their schoolwork when they
right,
were undergraduates at Harvard. You're going to succeed if you got help like that. Vis-a-vis,
right,
you go to a community college or someplace and you got to figure it all out yourself.
right.
So Skip Gates, to me,
Because I remember
like
he
a
had
lot of
a
people,
I
they
remember, I
are
remember he had an article about, and many times he talked about or down, um, yeah, like when he spoke against, he called it demagoguery or whatever against the John Henry Clark and other scholars, Black scholars or whatever. I remember he always criticized
yeah.
Black scholars.
Well, I'll say this of Skip Gates. He's he is a he's not a historian. This is what
Right,
Dr. Clyde Winters is saying. These
right,
people are not historians. That's
right,
not their training.
right,
They are literary critics. His book Signifying Monkey, it's very different from what other
right,
people do.
right.
Um,
Definitely.
but it's the same way they'll give us an Indian and say it's a Black woman. They'll give you a literary criticist, a literary critic, or
Hmm.
a person that's in English, and call them a historian. They're white and they say so.
Right,
If Skip Gates were really putting out transformative history and research, they wouldn't fund him.
I
So
believe that.
there's lots of you can produce a lot of books. Well, they had a slave Bible. You can produce a lot of things, but if you're not pointing people to how to liberate themselves and transform their lives, then it's intellectual masturbation. And
Right,
he's the circle jerk meister of this epoch.
right. Now you often get into this
I
FBA.
can't hear you. Why is your
Oh,
volume so low?
no, is it? Let me see. Hello? Hello, hello. I'll just talk louder, I guess. You hear me?
It's very low.
It's very low. Let me
Mm-hmm.
see. Uh, I can just talk louder, I guess.
Let me see something.
You can talk
Give me 1 second. I'm going to step out and come back in.
right, right.
Okay, just a moment.
There we go, people. We are live and direct, and we're gonna make sure the volume is up so that he's able to hear you. hear me. Excuse me. Hello, hello, hello. Let's see if we can maybe you can click the
I
volume.
see what it is.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, I can hear you now.
Yeah.
You
Great,
know what
great.
happens? This Wi-Fi got tampered with, and
Okay.
the sound went off. Okay, go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah. No, I think I was about to mention about no, the Black American well, I forgot the last question, but basically well, about the movie. How did you get in how did you get in touch with Tariq Nasheed, and how long have you been working with Tariq Nasheed, and how did you come about getting into this
Well,
documentary film with
the
buck breaking
first
and also American Maroon?
the there's a woman that was in the 1804 film that he did.
Yeah, okay.
Name is
Haitian Revolution.
Esley Danto.
Okay.
Okay, Esley Danto uh, gave me Tariq's
Context.
email.
Yeah.
What would it have been, 2017, 2018? And I don't know, periodically I send things to Tariq, but I did not know him. But in 2020, or I think in 2020, I
Right.
think Buck Breaking came out in 2020. I think
I
so,
think so. Yeah.
or whichever year, 21. Very simply, he asked me would I be in the film, and oh, great. And I'll say this: I had first heard of Tariq Nasheed in 2006 or seven, when the Hidden Colors films first began to come out. The
Right.
way, and I must tell you, I don't follow a lot of things, so I haven't been fortunate yet, although I do have the Tariq stream. I had not watched the Hidden Colors programs yet,
Right.
not to put them down, just you don't always see everything. But what I can recall is going to a video store and meeting some very dynamic young people that were aware of their history. And I wanted to know from the young man that was working the video store on Georgia Avenue near Howard University,
Mm-hmm.
what are you listening to and so forth. And he said, Hidden Colors, Tariq Nasheed. I'd never heard of him. So
Right.
that stayed with me, that I would meet people as a teacher, the people who were at least interested in knowing, because it's
Right.
very difficult to teach Black history in our community, because a lot of people are ashamed or brainwashed or not
Absolutely.
interested, or
I
they don't
agree.
think they can make any money. Is it just everything makes them angry when you bring up our history?
Right. Right.
But Tariq Nasheed seems to have been able to reach people that a lot of people had not found a way. So, I mean, they've gone from giving Mac advice and I don't know,
Right.
virtual pep talk into enlightening minds. And so that's fine. So when I was asked, whenever if you think I can contribute something to your project, that's fine. Let's do it.
Right.
And so they interviewed me, and I don't know. You never know what happens when people interview you, if
Right.
they're going to cut everything out that you said, or, but apparently some of what I said made the buck breaking film. And
Right. Right.
I guess people were fine with what was said. So that's God gets the credit. After all, everyone thought I was retarded as a kid, as I told you, and start talking about it's 4.5.
Mm.
So, I mean, a lot of people thought I was brain dead. So it's kind of
Right.
funny to go from being seen as a retard
Mm.
to being someone that people think is highly intelligent.
You
Life is
are. That's for
life
sure.
is
Yeah.
life is very strange.
Right.
So that was film number one, and then I thought there's going to be a buck breaking too. Maybe there is, because like that shooting that took place. And that was my joke. You heard about the man that called himself a woman that went to the Christian school in Nashville and shot
Yeah.
3 kids
Yeah.
and
I heard. Yeah.
shot 3 adults. And
Right. Right. Right.
I was going to put up a comment on
Uh-oh.
Facebook, and since they're going to close my account, but my account is, well, at least he could shoot straight. And
Mm.
they would have liked my account would be gone.
Right.
so
Right. Right. Right.
so so but so
When you,
there are lots of reasons we need to do
right.
another buck breaker because it's gotten worse. And we
Mm.
need to really get into who's behind the trans agenda. But
Right. Or if you be like Kanye West, start to talk about those other folks, those yeah,
well,
that group
yeah,
right there, then that's another one.
well, no, I have that too. So
Right.
you asked me, my family's significantly Jewish.
Mm.
So I guess I'm, instead of Fiddler on the Roof, when they do my family movie, it'll be Nigger on the Roof. So,
Right. Right.
and we'll probably have better music than theirs.
Right.
But
For sure. And
so
yeah.
no, Kanye, I've known Kanye since 1990, 92. His father and I were running buddies for 10 years.
Okay.
And his father's one of the best people I've ever met. His name is Raymond West. Kanye is his pride and joy. At least he was. He's
Right. Right.
always said something. But I just recently had 23andMe refuse to do a DNA test for me, and I can send you proof of that. They let me
I,
know they couldn't isolate my DNA. They tried it twice, and
I heard
they
you speak. I heard you speaking on that on Philip Shuck Matthews.
refunded me. They refunded me,
Wow.
and I I've basically been informed if I submit again, I won't get. They'll just take my money and not do the test, or they'll do whatever they want to do because
Oh, that's strange.
no, it's not strange.
Oh,
It's the same way when I did the test with another company. I came up
okay.
about at a minimum of 3.5% Oriental or Mizrahi Jew.
Okay.
Yeah, so that certain people see
Mm.
that and they look at someone like you or me, and this is how racism works. They do not like, basically a nigger's a nigger. I say a nigger comes from Africa, the jungles of Africa, period.
Right.
That's in
Right.
history. I'm white and I said so. And that isn't really true.
Right.
So if I said to you, there's someone that I'm like a distant relative to who's Korean, I'm trying to figure out how I got somebody Korean in my gene pool,
Right.
right? That,
They don't
do
like
you realize how
that.
crazy? I mean, and that person's family alleges that they got some relationship to Genghis Khan. So when you look at who are we? We're not what we look like. We are who we descend from. We have hundreds of thousands of ancestors. They're going to be all kinds of people,
Right. Right.
right? I mean, the further back I go in my own genealogy, the more stuff, the more names, more nothing that I would have ever thought of.
Mm.
I'm prepared for. I was thinking English, Scottish, Irish, sure.
Right.
Maybe
Definitely.
French too, because
Mm.
but Danish, Swedish,
Right.
Belarusian,
Right.
right? German. uh, Damn, it's
Right.
just
Right.
like
Right.
looking at me. I'm thinking that you can't.
Right.
Your skin color and all that doesn't really have any bearing
Right.
on your overall heritage. It's the
Absolutely.
most recent that you might see.
Right.
So they don't like it, but I've been told, and I'll keep repeating, the governor of California is supposedly like a third or fourth cousin of mine. Imagine. So if 23andMe looked at who my relatives were, would not want me contacting Nancy Pelosi and other people if they're in my damn family.
Right.
And so, and there are other such people who come from this group. People like Meghan Markle, all of us come from colonial Virginia. We're not talking about that many people not that long ago.
Right.
400 years is relatively a short period of time. So if I had family in Virginia, I'm talking about the Powhatan Indians and other people, Nottoway Indians and other people, right? Then necessarily, this is selfish. They don't like me to do interviews.
Well, it's all good. Yeah.
Necessarily, um, necessarily, a lot of us are related to the first colonists in the Commonwealth of Virginia, or the Virginia colony, going all the way back, which basically means that all of those families are connected because of inbreeding over the last few hundred years. So as one of my white cousins was explaining, that George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Jefferson, Stonewall Jackson, and Robert E. Lee are in the family and more.
Mhm.
And that
I
means that
will.
Henry II is in the family, and Henry II is the father, the great grandfather of all the American presidents except for Martin Van Buren,
Mm.
meaning that I'm somehow related to Henry II, the first Plantagenet king of England. And by the way, the Plantagenet is another word for Lancaster, and that's my mother's maiden name. And it's been
Mm.
the family name in this country for 402 years,
Mm.
403 years. Lancaster, which means that that's one of the kinship lines of the royal family of the Catholic dynasty that ruled England for a period of time.
Mm.
That's and my last name Short, and Short is also like Lancaster from Normandy, which is where this Danish thing, the
Right.
Danish people went into is it Rollin? Or I'm forgetting which one of these people, Rollo,
Mm.
the who went in from Denmark into France and got Normandy. And so I have a lot of Black Americans that you meet will have Norman names.
Right.
Short's Norman, another family name is Gray, another family name is Dew, another family
Mm.
name is Britain. All of these people have these Norman
Mhm.
names. And you need to understand, if you get into Dr. Clyde Winters, who I did the show with, Felipe Matthew, or Dr. Shock,
Mm.
um, they're the whole world, the Aboriginal people worldwide were not white people, but were Black, brown people,
Mm.
period.
Mm.
Even in Taiwan, they've got Black, brown people. You've got the Ainu in Japan. You've
Right.
got the Eta, which is also a word used in Japan because the Eta people are in Japan too. There are Eta people in the Philippines at Mount Pinatubo. The original Filipinos are Black.
Mm.
And this is worldwide. The original people are Black everywhere. The
Right.
Eskimos, as cold as it is, aren't pale.
Right. True.
Wonder
True.
why.
True.
Wonder
True.
why. I mean, they've got my cover up with no sunshine, and it's cold as hell,
True.
and it's still dark.
Right.
What would an Eskimo look like if they were in Florida?
Mm.
The original Hawaiians and everybody else, right? The scriptures say that man is named Adam, Adam for earth, red. Well, look at how red I am. And if it were hotter, I wouldn't get blacker, I'd get more red. Adam's red. So the original people are brown, red brown people,
Mm.
some of them Black, but let's just be real. So come on.
Right.
So the original English and a lot of the English royalty and these other people, like Arnold Schwarzenegger means black nigger.
Right. Right.
There's the
Right.
American general, Schwarzkopf means blackhead. I mean, the people are telling you who they were. What
Right.
makes their names irrelevant? The hubris of racist, recent European national groups that have imagined themselves to be separate and distinct from, coming from a system of polygenesis
Mm.
where there were lots of different humanoids all over the earth. You can't prove that because we all have the same number of chromosomes and everything else. We're not identical, but we are definitely in the same species, although racists teach something else, right? But the ancients didn't lie about this. You go to Russia, or you go to Poland and you look at how Mary and Jesus are portrayed. They're not portrayed as melanin depleted races.
Right.
They're a Black woman with the Black child, right?
Right.
That's everywhere.
Right.
This is a relatively new occurrence to justify people from the poorest lands in the world ripping off people from the richest places in the world and hiding and claiming that God gave them the right to rape, kill, steal, destroy, and enslave because people who make up the majority
Right. Right.
are
Of the
somehow
world.
less than them. This white population is relatively small. It is declining, even in your Norway, even
Their numbers are dwindling, that's for sure.
even in Denmark
Right.
or Denmark, even everywhere, the numbers of people who are not this
Right.
arrogant, hubristic group of people who are lighter skin are diminishing as a number everywhere. In
Right.
fact, their sperm count is dropping.
Right.
You know, if
Right.
you go back to Genesis, when the Philistine guy was trying to screw Abraham's wife, the Most High God messed up the sperm count of the Philistines. I believe this is divine intervention, that people aren't procreating babies and the sperm counts are dropping because the Most High is kind of tired
Right.
of how they're treating everybody else. How long are you going to mess over everybody, hate everybody,
Right.
not get along with everybody, make wars, make atomic weapons, traumatize people, pretend that we're not one human family,
Right.
steal other people's resources, hoard everything on one continent, and damn it, you better not come over to see us, or we'll
Right.
let you
Right.
drown the Mediterranean.
Right.
This is a system doomed to fail,
Mm. And
and
that
so it's not a sustainable system.
and in that
It's
and in that the latest documentary film that you were in, I like because it talked a lot about the Black American resistance and the dismal swamp, which I didn't really know so much about, which I
yeah,
learned
and that's
a
what
lot of
came
people.
up. I think I brought that up with Tariq
Mm.
when we were doing buck breaking. That there's this dismal swamp, which is
Right.
the second largest, at one point, the second largest swamp area on the East Coast of the United States.
Right.
It's somewhere between 1,500 to 2,000 square miles of
Wow.
swampland. A lot of it's been drained, right?
Hmm.
And it's in the southeast corner of Virginia and the northeast corner of North Carolina, near the city of Chesapeake. So it's just off of the ocean, the
Right.
Atlantic Ocean, and
Right.
in the Tidewater area. And I don't know, I remember going through the dismal swamp to the family reunions that would be not far from there,
Mm.
and asking my father, what's the Great Dismal Swamp? But my father just told me it was a big swamp. I had to learn later. I knew that the swamp was there because I was in the geography, but to learn from my cousin who just passed last year, the age of, I think, 86, that our family lived there.
Mm.
And we have two families. One family that was enslaved and did not get away, and that there are branches of our family that ran away, lived in the dismal swamp for generations, but were also involved in the Underground Railroad and doing things like going and robbing white farms and isolated, stealing stuff if they needed it and getting back into the swamp,
Right.
which used to have alligators. And of course, it has dangerous reptiles, cottonmouth water moccasins and other copperhead snakes and all. And they were
Remember
there.
that they had that movie Emancipation with Will Smith
Mhm.
that played that. I think they
I haven't seen that,
Oh, okay,
but
okay, okay.
I
I
haven't
think they
seen
might
it.
have showed a bit when he ran into towards the swamp, I believe. I think so.
Well, they were in the swamps in the Mississippi Delta, the Florida Everglades, but my mother's uh, great 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 grandmother was Seminole, and so and Seminole is like a combination of
Right,
different sorts of Africans and
right,
Creek Indians that lived
right,
in Alabama South Georgia and in
Osceola and the
Florida.
right.
Well, it's a lots of,
Yeah.
so it's not the kind of story that we're going to hear. In fact, my family had a book on the American states, and I learned about Black people burning out the white colonists in South Carolina in the 1520s. I learned about that in kindergarten. Now other people know about this 1526, but I knew this over 50 years ago. This isn't a big secret. Just a
Right.
lot of times our people don't read, or they don't seek information, or they go with the party line of the very people that tell them that they're subhuman. It's a choice. Being, in the words of Kanye West, being a mental slave, a psychological slave, is a choice.
Right.
That this dismal swamp conversation that I had with Tariq when we were doing buck breaking, I think that may have had some influence in that being looked at.
Right. Right. Now you talk a lot about and which I love the conversation with you and Dwan B, which I would like to interview Dwan B. If you can get word out to Dwan B to shoot
I'll
me an
give you his
email.
email.
Right.
He'll write you back.
Right. Right.
I
Right.
don't know how often he does
Because
interviews, but
yeah, when it
if
comes to the music, that's all. Just I just
right.
wanted to and so maybe we can touch a little bit on that the Black American worldwide influence when it comes. Well, before that, what's your take on the whole FBA B1 ADOS conversations?
Well, actually, I don't pay a lot of attention
Right.
to them
And
on.
then
I,
Pan-Africanist,
I,
foundational, because
okay,
because people overseas are hearing these little, you know, kind of
okay.
conversations
Well,
amongst Black folk.
let's let's deal with ADOS quickly.
Right.
First and foremost, ADOS wasn't started by Tone or Yvette Carnell.
Okay.
Yvette Carnell, I believe, is, if she's not biracial, she sure looks like it.
Right.
And she's, in love with a white woman. I guess she's married or something like that.
Right.
I went to Howard with her too. And my feelings about Yvette is that she's not genuine. When I was bringing up the issue of reparations to Yvette and other people, we worked in the same newspaper at Howard. These people turned their backs on me and would run from me. I didn't even get to talk to them. So
Right.
Yvette Carnell is an operative of the Democratic Party and will
Right.
always
I
be
kind of
such.
get that. I get that
And she will
sense too.
always be such. And
Right.
you can't want freedom for our people, and we don't have a real concept of what man or woman is or what a family is. What you do privately is one thing, but if what you do privately influences your politics and you want to be a leader of our group, and we're being attacked by people who practice the same thing privately, and in
Right.
fact, the most racist community of all, I would suspect, are white sodomite males and white sodomite feminist females are decimating our communities, taking our children out of, 1 in 9 Black children get taken by the state here, and they're often sold or auctioned off or tricked off by crooked, deviant people that work in the child and family services across the country. It's nothing but human trafficking, state-sponsored human trafficking. You'll never hear Yvette Carnell and them complain about it. You can say I said it. They're not, there's some real issues there. So I was talking about reparations at Howard University, and Cobra is far from having been an effective group around reparations, but at least they were talking about it. And I was a member of the student chapter of Cobra when Yvette Carnell went to Howard at the same time as I. And when we were just, can we talk about, would you cover, would you look at what? Now this person's the queen of reparations. It's bullshit. It's profiteering. It's opportunism. I don't believe in it. ADOS has gone the way of the buffalo.
You believe in you believe in reparations, but you don't believe in the way that she's going about. Yeah.
I don't know how they're going about doing it.
Right.
If in fact you don't mass educate people, if you're not in particular talking about family, That's where you're going to be able to have a basis for
No,
reparations.
I get what you're saying.
You
Yeah.
you got to have your family together. The main thing that's been done is a destruction of us as a people, a destruction of your identity, the destruction of your family, and you're living this metrosexual,
Mm,
interracial pipe dream.
mm,
What kind of role model are you for our people?
mm,
Okay, you can't have it both ways. If I'm trying to lead my people forward, I'm going to have to say no to my genitalia and my appetites and present a wholesome, committed, dedicated leader,
mm,
because they're going to assail and attack you based on what you're trying to get for your people.
mm.
If you drink a little, smoke a little, whatever, a little, right? Or as they say in Swedish, if you're a mama, what's it, Mama Kinolari?
Mm, mm,
If that's, I said it right, didn't I?
mm.
Okay. If that's what you're really behind and that's what you guys are pushing, and you're telling people to vote a straight Democratic ticket and the Democratic Party is against reparations for Black people, and you've been a paid Democratic Party operative for years, or at some point you worked closely with the Democratic Party in 2019, they told their people for 2020 to vote a straight Democratic ticket. That's not, what if someone Republican or independent was for reparations and a Democrat was against it? They would vote for the anti-reparations candidate. You're a liar. Philosophically, you're bankrupt.
Mm.
And who's getting all the benefits from the Black movement? Illegal migrants to the country, LGBTQ, and other people who have nothing to do with chattel slavery or being foundational Aboriginal African blends like I am. So, forget
Right,
it. Now that's ADOS. So there are good, committed people that
right,
always get in these groups. Nothing wrong.
right,
I've learned not to join things quickly because you need to know who's leading it and who's funding them.
right.
Nobody's funding me, but people who give me donations and support me. How about that?
Mm.
So if you wonder why I speak openly and honestly, I get blessed by small gifts from.
Right. You like a lone wolf out
Right.
there.
And by the way, you need to put my Cashapp out here and let people know I absolutely
Definitely.
definitely want resources
In the
to buy
description.
books, to
Right.
do all that stuff. Now, ADOS, I mean, anything pushing reparations at a certain level, great. But where are you really leading? If you're not taking us into independence, then you're taking us into dependency. And that's a problem. So ADOS is in bad shape.
Right.
FBA, I think I'm for people recognizing that we're foundational Black and we are distinct from recent arrivals like
Right.
Kamala
Right.
Harris or
Right.
other
Right.
people. I'm not mad at them. They're
Right.
just not the same thing as me. And
Right.
trust me, these foreign people who come here, Blacks, they're demanding to be counted separately from us in the census and in separate groups and all
Right.
of that, which they have a right to. And we
Mm.
also have a right to say, you aren't who we are. Because
Right.
what is their beef with that is they've got their hand in our cookie jar. The way that these races work, we fight for the cookies that we've
Right.
helped make,
Right.
and they give it to another group of Black
Right.
people who feel grateful to them for refugee status, for wars, proxy wars that the United
Right.
States' imperial project has caused in their country. So the white folk get them killed, butchered in Congo and everywhere else, and they come here. They
Right.
feel thankful to the people who drove them from their homeland, and they're
Mm.
angry at us.
Right. True. True.
And
True.
they don't identify with me, but they want whatever I fought for.
Right. Right.
Wow.
And then how do you deal with that? Like I said, because I sometimes I wrestle with, and I get exactly what you're saying, and a lot of things that the people at FBA talk about, I agree with and all these. But then it's just that one part when you're talking about the Pan-Africanism.
Well, I mean,
How do you? Yeah.
I have a very specific thing that I've said, whether I am a reciprocal Pan-Africanist. I am not an unrequited Pan-Africanist.
That's what's
If
up.
you're for me, I'm for you. If you're not for me, hey, be for yourself, I'm for myself. That's
Hey,
real talk.
well,
That's
there you go.
reality.
That's real
And
talk
for
right
those
there.
people, and trust me, there are a lot of
Reciprocal.
folks who've
Right.
come here and used us.
Uh-huh.
They use. And I was in a group. Let me tell you, I was in a Pan-African group. And they never, ever, we would do all these conferences, talk about issues. They never, ever wanted to even have one discussion about our situation here in the United States. They would laugh at me for saying, hey, look, can we talk about here
Wow.
once?
Wow.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. And they thought it was funny. They didn't want to have meetings anywhere where Black Americans could make it. So they want you around if you're going to fight for, get involved in a guerrilla war back in their country to fight another group of people. These Africans and other people come here with some crazy bullshit.
Right, right.
I mean, it's so stupid. You want me to fight the Eritreans if you're from Ethiopia?
Right, right, right.
If you're from Sudan, you want me to fight the Northerners. If you're from Congo, you want me to fight the Rwandese. And you want us not trade, not cooperation, not reciprocity, but I've got a home somewhere else. And I don't mind if you give me money or you even die for me to get something, but fuck you.
Mm.
This is what we're not going to take anymore. And if the people don't get it, drop dead.
No doubt.
That's just, look, in Africa, when you go into another people's country, and you try to mess over, they attack those camps and set things on fire and kick people out. If they can't deal with us saying, show us the same respect they show you, don't come here. You're not wanted, you're not needed. You're coming here as a mercenary to help oppress us. There's been a history of immigrants of all kinds being used specifically against us. And they need to get it out of their heads that all of us they're cast-offs, okay? My family is half Aboriginal, which means we were always here. You're invading another Black people's land that weren't sold by your ancestors over here. So I don't need them for an identity. We don't need them exclusively for an identity.
Wow.
They are part. Get it out of your head. I mean, and I despise what I call the scam Africanists, the liar, phony Black Americans who act like there's nothing in America. America's a zero. So go and go to Africa and start from zero all over again. If you're looking at places like Ghana, where certain Black Americans may get killed over land disputes, they try to rent or buy, and folks, they encounter African corruption like the shit doesn't exist. Why are Africans trying to get the hell out of Africa? Because it's miserable if you're not a super wealthy African at the top class that steals the IMF money and the European Union money and gets the payoff from the corporations that poison the air and the water there. Let's just deal with this. And so there are these dirty liar leftists, Blacks, who hate everything about America, just Africa, everything is perfect, but they don't live there. If they do, they don't stay. They come back to America and beg for money, and they preach about a utopian Africa that does not exist. Is Africa beautiful? Yes. Are Africans nice people? Most of them? Yes, like anywhere else. Is Africa perfect? No. Africa is not perfect. Africa has problems. Africa, like any place else, isn't heaven. And your Black poor in the United States are doing better than poor Black people practically anywhere else except for select European Union countries. And Pan-Africanists lie about how perfect everything is in Africa. Now that you've got AFRICOM and the Russians and the Chinese setting up bases, Africa's about to be a war zone. Do you really think that America is going to pull out all the tens of thousands of Black people in Ghana successfully if they had a coup? Or the Awe and the Muslims in the north of Ghana decided to fight against the Akan if something was set off? I don't think so. And they get hacked up and butchered like what happened in Rwanda, because a lot of African countries have a lot of drama. A lot of it is externally imposed, but just the same, African people die or are deprived of the wealth of their own country by external powers and their corrupt, compromised elite. And so going to Africa on a certain level can provide a degree of solace and peace if you've got a lot of money and
Right.
you go into Africa as the upper class. If you go to Africa as a broke Black American, which 8/10 of us are, you may not like it because you'd have to get used to the power going off, needing a generator, needing to filter your own water, needing to get into a bus, not like the bus here, where you're packed up in a van riding places.
Mm.
Inflation, your money getting devalued, and other things. I'm not saying Africa's bad, but if you're rich or well-to-do in Africa, it is a wonderful place. But if you're a broke person and you go to Africa, you may not like it.
Right.
Or there is a one thing, it's wonderful to be in the majority where no one's tripping off of your skin color. But I'll tell you, in Africa, people don't think about your skin color. What can you do? What do you have to offer? And I'll
Right.
tell you, most Africans will look at you cross-eyed. Why do you want to be here?
Right.
These folks would sell family members, do all kinds of things to live in Europe or go someplace else
Right.
because they idealize what they see through the media and the television about America and Europe. You can't tell them that there's slums or there's hunger or there's prostitution or drugs. A lot of people, they don't want to, or they're willing to come and see it for themselves first.
Right.
So why not see Africans as people instead of seeing them as some, what's that movie, Black Panther fantasy, which is not real. I mean, I'm sick and tired of the immaturity, the disrespect, the
Speaking of that, and I didn't mean to
but
cut
you're
you.
cutting me off. Let me finish my
Okay.
point.
Okay.
The intellectual fraud of a lot of Black people in America, where Africa's dancing and its colors and it's happy and its villages, and they're going to go back and find the village their family came from.
Yeah.
I'm sick and tired of the immaturity, as if you've got a type of intellectual autism where people don't know what's going on in contemporary Africa, nor do they care to know. And they're determined to have their pipe dream, which, by the way, my book talks about the providential design. The whole idea of Black people going back to Africa is a white supremacist idea to prevent free Black people from getting control of the United States. So to make certain that anyone Black who wasn't a slave would go to Africa to get the hell out. It's to tell people everything is perfect once you leave. My thing is, no people give up land that wish to be powerful or to have resources. So we're going to just get up and throw our hands up. And whose land are we going to get? Africa may have 2.5 billion people. Do you really think they give an accurate count of the number of Africans in Africa any more than they give an accurate count of Blacks in America? The African continent is filling up. Africa had 600 million people a few years ago. Now they're like, what, either 1.5 to 2 billion Africans, and one day there will be 5 billion Africans. There won't be all this goddamn land loose that anybody could move. The whole thing about Africa is this land that you won't have to fight for, that these trifling, lazy, cowardly Black Americans don't want to put up a fight for home. They're doing the same thing that the Africans coming here do. Let's find a place where we don't have to fight, where we can coast. That's part of what this Pan-African thing is. And there's the other fraud. If you really talk about Pan-Africanism and you really get down with them, these folks expect us to go over and help fight, drive the Arabs out of North Africa. They've got some really crazy ideas. To hell with that. I mean, I would like for the people who hate me, who might be in a different religion, I want them to leave America versus trying to get everybody that's Arab to leave Africa. That's ridiculous. So there's a whole bunch of intellectual masturbation and deceit and fraud and crookery around this Pan-Africanism. Now, the idea of Black people coming together and working together, that's a great idea. I support it if it's reciprocal. If it's not, hell no. I mean, everything has to be something. If you're in Africa, everything is transactional. You have to pay bribes to everyone. Africans that don't agree with this are liars. You better have something if you want something in Africa. The only place that they can go and expect to get something for nothing is dealing with stupid Black Americans that romanticize in Africa that they normally have never traveled to. When they go to Africa, they normally want to go to Egypt. They don't go to some place like Swaziland. They don't go to Malawi. They don't go to Zimbabwe. They don't go to Mozambique.
True.
They don't go to the Central African Republic. They don't go to Burundi. They don't go those places. If they go, they go to South Africa, and particularly they go to Cape Town. They go to the whitest or the most Arabized places, or Ghana, which is kind of user friendly. But they don't. They're not going to Niger.
User friendly.
They're not going to Guinea. They're
Right.
not going to Liberia. They're not doing that. So they're liars. The people are liars over here. They don't want to be bothered. And when if they go to Kenya, they do just like the white people. They want to see the animals and not see the African folks in the rural areas, who many of which are in a destitute situation. And you've got tens of millions of Africans now crowding the cities that live in fetid conditions that make Harlem and South Chicago and Anacostia here in DC look like a paradise ghetto. So I'm sick and tired of the lies about this thing. So Pan-Africanism, if it's going to exist and everybody's going to do that, first of all, Pan-Africanism needs to be real to Africans themselves. And if Pan-Africanism was real, there wouldn't be all this sectarian and ethnic warfare all over the African continent. The Chinese couldn't come in and buy up everything for a song, or the Germans, or the Saudis. So right now, Pan-Africanism is basically a Black intellectual person who's got psychotic denial and a wet dream. It is not real, not because it couldn't happen. It should, but what it would take to happen may take a long time. Okay. It's the same way you have all these African countries where Bill Gates can go over and give those people diseases, give them polio, experiment on them, and the government will take pennies and let them butcher their own people, like they did with the COVID vaccines and what they did with Ebola and what they do all the time. You know, the African governments, these crooked ass elites, don't care a damn about the masses of the people. They let the pharmaceutical corporations go over and poison the people. Do you know if you're a Black American, you end up broke over there, they'll poison you the same way they poison their own fellow ethnic Africans in each of those countries. So I'm sick and tired of people who've never been to Africa having all these fantasies. We're not serious. And I've spent a lifetime where we do something, where there's some event to talk about Africa. And you know, the first thing they do the same thing to Africans that white people do to us. They emphasize dancing, clothes, and eating. Nothing about the history, nothing about the needs, nothing about building up the continent or getting investment opportunities. The same way Africans come here, they don't come and say, hey, let's do business together. Most basically give me. You're so privileged in America, you damn American, just give me, you guys. Even Africans that come to live here don't like dealing with their own family because they're constantly being begged for money, for clothes, for everything, for watches, for cell phones. They treat you like you're like you're a Walmart superstore, because the Black consciousness that some of us have in the United States is not commonplace on the African continent, and it may never get there. So to me, people need to get out of trying to put Africans in a box. And African people and all the other people in the British Caribbean have a right to pursue their own interests, and they need to get it through their skulls. We do too, to pursue our own interests. And as I said, if you're for me, I'm for you. If you're not for me, trust me, I'm still for myself. And if they take that as an attack on them, damn them, because they're for themselves, and I don't care. What they're really saying is, and that's a player hater, and it's a jealousy that many people come to America against us. There's a hatred for us among some people, not all, that we owe them something. Me, the person who had ancestors sold by these folks, they're coming here to get another bite out of the apple. Hell to the no. That's my answer.
Right. And no, I was trying to, when you talk about Pan-Africanism, I just saw some article today about them making now they're gonna make some movie where they're gonna mention Marcus Garvey, called The Marked Man, Amazon Prime or something like that. They're gonna make a movie dealing with Marcus Garvey. I heard that today.
That's shallow. Let's talk about something concrete. I just saw an article that they're going to create a common currency between Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania.
Right.
I used to read a thing called Africa Magazine, published in London
Right.
in the 1970s. Okay, so I've always been interested in Africa. I was reading this as a kid in elementary school.
Right.
They've been talking about this Eastern African Economic Union for over 40 years.
Right.
They have it, but they haven't thought to pool their money together and have a common currency. What's the goddamn holdup?
Right.
African leadership bullshit.
Right.
That's why you have the SADC countries. This stuff happened 40 years ago, right? Where these, like in the early 80s, that all these Southern African countries were going to be an economic unit. This was before South Africa changed management. It's still screwed, and the black folks still screwed over. The white people still have everything, and now the Asians have it too. And the black folks are still in the Bantustans and all of that. And what every month, I think something like 10,000 South African children are either sick or die from malnutrition. That's how many Africans. I mean, yeah, it's about 10,000. It's a huge number of babies die because they don't get enough food to eat under the new South Africa.
Right.
They should have created an economic group. Now that the white folk aren't in charge, what's the damn holdup?
Right.
And what's the holdup is that Africans are people. You've got good ones and bad ones. You've got crooked ones. You've got greedy ones. And these people who are in the elite positions, they work hand in hand with the racist, white supremacist corporatists against fellow Africans, and they don't like us either. And by the way, it's the Africans who want to be white and assimilate are the ones that tend to get the ability to travel, to go different places. I call the ones that speak French baguette noir or black French bread. And you got these other people, they want to be white so bad. In fact, they buy skin lightener all over Africa. I mean, just bleaching their skin out, getting skin diseases because there's not an appreciation for blackness and hair straight and all this kind of stuff. The consciousness on the continent of Africa for many people is lower than what it was for us under slavery, unfortunately. I want to be wrong. I want everything I'm saying to be the opposite. If we just all love each other, we're going to come together and stop this horrible nightmare of white racism and sell out Negro leadership treachery on the global basis. However, I'm not holding my breath. I'm an old person. I probably will drop dead. You and I aren't going to see it. And if the leadership that they have in places like South Africa, or the not the African leaders that let Muammar Gaddafi get destroyed by the United States and NATO, if that's any indication of the quality of leadership that the African continent has, it's going to be damned for a long time.
Now you talk a lot about leadership, fake black leadership.
That's all we have.
Right. Wow. Now, have you? I heard you mention something about.
Do my commercial.
Oh yeah, Slavery's Mastery.
Yeah, that's on Amazon.
Yeah. Right, on Amazon. I'm definitely gonna put that in there. Okay, I didn't know that you had written that one too. Wow, the real Cory Booker story.
Yeah, he's fake, and he wants to be president. And we've got another one, the governor of Maryland. He's a Jamaican, pretend to be a Black American that's in my extended family. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
I mean, they keep putting him, and he's for illegals and LGBTQ, and he's going to decriminalize spreading AIDS. What a great public policy. So I want to spread all the AIDS I want. He's going to make it legal.
Wow.
That's leadership.
Wow.
Change and hope. Yes, he can.
Now the Black American worldwide influence. We get to some of the music or whatever. When it comes to music.
We don't have to do a whole lot. We can pick any era that you want.
Right.
It's best to just, if we kept it tight, we should just limit it to the post-World War II era would be a good example.
Right.
Globally, right? And we can say Marian Anderson, the Black opera singer, toured the whole world for the State Department, one of the leading classical singers in the world history. If we do folk music, all we need to do is put out Mahalia Jackson. She went to your Norway.
Yeah.
And in the 1940s, she sold so many records, the country ran out of lacquer. They were not able to, they had to bring records over from Denmark. She did a record too, and the country ran out of the capacity to press records for Mahalia Jackson.
Right.
That's an impact, right? Imagine
Absolutely.
the country not having the
Absolutely.
ability to even print anymore. So many of her
Right.
records sold. So
Right.
that's her. We can talk about Louis Armstrong.
I was
We
about
can
to say that.
say
Yeah.
that
He was
all
out.
of
He was
them-
out. He was out here too. He was in a. I went to some. I was in the woods, you know, and then they had this like little shop where you can get some coffee and stuff. And then they had a picture of Louis Armstrong. I was like, he was out here, and it was like, yeah,
Yeah,
and they,
the jazz went
yeah,
everywhere. In fact, Louis
yeah,
Armstrong
they love jazz out here. Yeah, yeah.
also traveled through the United States Department. That was their fight against communism, was waged heavily by promoting Black music as a part of American freedom. Isn't that ironic? As we're lynched, segregated, redlined, and denied, Black cultural production, in particular in the form of music, is at an all-time high all over the world. The only place I'm thinking that they kept Black music out largely is China, North Korea, and Russia. Otherwise, even the Eastern Bloc countries got some of it. And if they didn't get Black American music, they got derivations like the Beatles, who are nothing but an updated skiffle band. Skiffle is Black American music that was taken to England during World War II. That was very popular, and that's the basis of modern British popular music, is their copy of Black American music called skiffle. They even had a show called the Black and White Show that was on British television literally, I think, until the late 70s. And some of the music in that was based on Black Southern music, where they used the racist blackface and minstrel stuff. But I'll do that. And I can just say for Japan, when the United States was able to force Japan to open up trading, and by the way, the person that led the American Navy into Japan to Yokohama was a mulatto by the name of Commodore Perry. He was a mulatto. The first thing that they did to entertain the Japanese was to perform a minstrel show. So the very first music that the Japanese learned from the United States was whites copying Black music. Japan to this day is a major place that loves Black music. And of course, Black soldiers stationed there. Since the end of the Second World War, Japan is a major market for jazz, blues, all things R&B. That's just a fact. And so the end of the Second World War and the American Empire, which has bases and soldiers who want to hear music from home, whether it's the USO, the United States Service Organization, or the State Department sending cultural ambassadors, or the Voice of America, which plays jazz and other music worldwide. Voice of America is subsidized. It's part of the CIA, unfortunately. They play Black music for people, and that's on the government side. On the popular side, I mentioned the Beatles, and I can say to you, all of the people who've been major figures, whether it's Freddie Mercury, who's with Queen, or Cliff Richards, the two of the biggest stars from the British music scene, are heavily impressed and impacted by Black music, as was Mick Jagger and the other Rolling Stones and Elton John and so forth. These people who spread it throughout the British Commonwealth were deeply influenced by Black music. And I want to just put some more people out there. So you had Mahalia, and I mentioned You mentioned Louis Armstrong,
Right.
and there's Miles Davis and all the other jazz people that were in
Right.
Europe, Dizzy Gillespie and others. But I
Right.
want to shift to the rock era, which is easier to do. It's more immediate. The biggest performing artist, of course, in Europe's history is
J-
at least is Elvis Presley, and Elvis Presley grows up. In fact, according to my cousin, he learned to sing on farmland that belonged to my cousins. How about that? In
Hmm.
Tupelo, Mississippi. In fact, my cousin's mom, so I guess she's my cousin too, she is sick, so I hope she gets better. She had
Hmm.
blood pressure over 200. But yeah, I have family in Tupelo, Mississippi.
Wow.
And I even have relatives named Presley from Mississippi, but they are Black.
Hmm.
By the way, Elvis Presley's grandmother was a mulatto, and Elvis Presley, even he is related to Oprah Winfrey and Berry Gordy, the founder of Motown Records,
Wow.
which is part of where I'm going. So Elvis Presley is an interpreter of Black American music. And
Right. Right.
I want to say that one person that influenced Elvis Presley is Little Richard, who passed within the last 2, 3 years.
Right. Right.
And Little Richard was the
They
person
just
that
they just put out a documentary, I think, they're going to really
I heard
soon.
that they're going to. I haven't seen
Yeah,
it.
they're going to. They're going to. Yeah.
Little Richard was inspirational to the Beatles. They first toured with him in Germany in the Star Club, where the Beatles got their big following. They
Mm.
were part of Little Richard's tour. And I need to add that all of the blues artists, the Chicago Electric Blues, Muddy Water, Howlin' Wolf, uh, I'm forgetting some of the names,
Right. Right. Right.
Reed,
Right.
all of these people were heavily influenced the British artists. So that's another thing. And then I want to just come right behind Elvis Presley and remind you that the Platters, Little Richard, Sam Cooke, Chuck Berry. In
Right.
fact, Chuck Berry is a major influence on John Lennon and a range of other people. And then I want to mention this another person who was very influential
Jimi
on Chuck
Hendrix,
Berry and
but not
everyone
that
else.
era. Yeah.
And that would be Sister Rosetta Thorpe, who
Right.
is a,
Yeah.
who.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the guitar picking, which was an influence on Elvis Presley
Right.
and on Chuck Berry and on uh, Kendricks and Hendrix and everybody else. So
Right.
Rosetta Thorpe, a contemporary of Mahalia Jackson. In fact, she was recording and having hits before Mahalia Jackson did.
Right.
I mean, that's Black gospel, that's Black jazz. And now let me just put another set of music out. A white-owned company, Atlantic Records. So Ray Charles, was a major figure, and Atlantic Records, those people who had hits, some of them did okay, but the real people that blew the Black music internationally, none other than the Motown Record Corporation, established in
Right.
1959.
Right.
And that's when we can really I mean, Motown had a couple of major hits. And you remember that the British Broadcasting Corporation did not play a lot of Black music
Mm.
until the late 60s.
Mm.
But in spite of a heavy ban against Black music, the leading or should I say the leading American vocal group of all times, the Supremes in 1964, with Baby Love, gave Motown the #1 record in England. And of course, their Where Did Our Love Go went to #3 before that. My Guy by Mary Wells went to #5. Shop Around made the top 10 in Britain prior. But the Supremes kicked the door open. And of course, the dominant Motown group for Great Britain were the Four Tops.
Mm.
Although Martha and the Vandellas and other people were very influential to this day, you have a very strong soul market throughout the United Kingdom called Northern Soul. It's a whole cultural movement where people venerate real Black R&B, even music that we don't have released here. And my auntie, great Kim Weston, is seen as the queen of Northern Soul. So go
Mm,
figure.
mm,
And of course, Marvin Gaye and so forth. So Motown internationalized Black music in a way that none of the companies had done hitherto. And of course, the Prince and the greatest project of Motown, of course, is Michael Jackson and the Jackson Five. You put them all together, that's a global phenomenon.
right.
Of course, you get Lionel Richie, Stevie Wonder, and I've mentioned Marvin Gaye before, and the Commodores, that you had these groups and you had others. And I left out Diana Ross as a solo artist who's still highly respected throughout Europe and was one of the key performers for the Diamond Jubilee of the late Queen Elizabeth II of the United Kingdom.
Mm.
So you've got that, you've got disco, you have rap, you have all of this. And of course, even reggae, which is very popular in Europe. People need to remember that Bob Marley and the Wailers were heavily influenced by the Black American artists Fats Domino, Smokey Robinson, and other R&B groups. And in fact, what's characterized the beat and reggae music, which was made up tempo by, if I'm correct, the what's the record company? Is it Planet? What's the company that they recorded on? I'm not remembering the
Mm,
label that Marley and them initially recorded on, but their
mm,
producer insisted that Marley and the others upbeat their music
mm,
more like Black American music for it to sell. So even the rhythm within reggae had to be more like Black American music to be marketed to a British audience. You can
right.
look it up. It's just a fact. So
Oh,
reggae. Yeah, okay, yes, reggae, but reggae had to adapt to a European market, not like the Jamaican market. And
right.
the Europeans were used to what? They're used to Black American R&B. It's a
Right.
compromise. I want to
Right.
go further to say that who internationalized reggae? Uh, Johnny Nash, a Black American who never claimed that he made reggae. He
That's right.
claimed that he heard
Yeah.
this, loved it, wanted everybody to
I
love
can
it.
see
And
clearly. Yeah.
yeah, it's
Hmm.
that is the biggest reggae record ever made, and it
Right.
wasn't made
Straight.
by a Caribbean.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
number one all over the
Because I
world. I
remember
mean,
way back then when I heard someone, I thought it was, but yeah, he's American. Yeah.
no.
Black American.
He's from Texas, and he used to record with my auntie for Jada Records.
Right.
He recorded with Kim Weston. He's from Texas. I
Right.
think he died 2 years ago.
Right.
So it's
Even because I remember listening to Dwan B one time, even the Miami sound, I forgot the name of the guy. And then they before
there's
Gloria Estevan and before Jade.
there's Casey and the Sunshine Band,
Yeah.
but the other guy is George McCrae.
Yeah.
Woman, take me in your arms,
Mm,
rock me, baby. He
right.
lives in Amsterdam.
Mm,
He lives in Netherlands, and there's also Gwen McCrae. She has a song "Rocking Chair." The Miami disco is a blend between Black American R&B and Bahamians. There's a blend for them. These other
right.
people come over later.
Right.
It's still here,
Right.
and it still has this flavor. We're still in the mix.
And
Uh,
and then when you
what,
talk
what,
about salsa music with the bebop, Dizzy Gillespie before that in the
yeah, no,
way.
Dizzy Gillespie,
Yeah.
but we need to understand who was in Puerto Rico and Cuba. You had Black soldiers performing and doing
True.
music in Cuba. We need to
Absolutely.
remember who was one of the biggest stars in Cuba before Castro was kicked out? None other than Nat King Cole. Let's
Mm,
just mention him. He's another person. I left him out. Nat King Cole was one of the
mm,
biggest artists in the world,
right. Right.
recording in about Spanish, Japanese, Portuguese,
Hmm.
German. Nat King Cole's one of the biggest artists in the world. And if you say Frank Sinatra, let's be honest, Frank Sinatra's favorite singer that he tried to copy was Billie Holiday, who directed the band for Frank Sinatra when he's at his peak. Right? Quincy Jones. We did this. We're so integral to whatever is American. It makes no difference what people think.
Right.
It makes no difference. Okay. And when how influential Black music is when Hitler came to power in Germany, one of the first things he said is that Black American music has to go. However, for his Lebensborn, when he wants to get his German young men to get an erection to screw German women, they had to bring the jazz music back to get the people to screw each other because they couldn't do it to Dankeschön and
Right.
listening to, what's her name? Marlene Dietrich. Lily Marlene doesn't do it like It's Cold Outside, Baby. Baby, it's cold outside. It's really, it's everywhere. And I would go further to say to you, people like Ray Parker Jr., which are very popular in Germany. There are a lot of artists and acts that don't even get recognized in America that continue to be popular all over the world, that we don't even hear about. So Michael Jackson has more #1 records in Spain and Turkey than he has in the United States. Do you get my point? Diana Ross has more hits. A lot of people are bigger everywhere.
Oh yeah, definitely the classic artists, the older artists are way more popular
and
here.
they're selling better and they get paid
Absolutely.
better because the people appreciate it. And this goes all the way back to the Fifth Jubilee singers who took Europe by storm in the 1860s, 1870s. And even during World War II, the United States broadcasted a group that my mother was in, although she wasn't in at that time. She came in the 59, 60, Wings Over Jordan, which was a Black religious choral group that sang all over the world. And I left out Paul Robeson, who was a major concert draw all over Europe, including the former Soviet Union, everywhere, singing Negro spirituals, which did well. So I'm just trying to think. I can't think of, I could go all day long talking about people who made major impact. But when you talk about, I don't care what you're talking about, wherever you go, there's this and connection. In fact, I'll go further to say to you, even this Afro pop that all you guys are bopping to in Europe, who went over and took jazz? My book, Slavery's Mastery, talks about Black American missionaries that went to the Congo. Black Americans took jazz to the Congo in the early 1800s. Ragtime, all that was taken. And they took music and everything else. A lot of the music from Congo has an influence out of Black American missions and out of Luebo and other places in the Kasai province of Congo. I'm just saying, on top of that, Black soldiers were stationed initially in Leopoldville in World War II, which of course they took their music and so forth. So this is everywhere, and it's in the Philippines, and it goes on and on. It just, if you start talking about salsa music and mariachi music, we need to understand something, that you had Americans stationed in certain places. I'm not saying that they did everything, but they did some. And we're everywhere. We've been everywhere. There's a lot of influences on South African music. South African music, but did you know that Black Americans established churches in South Africa? Not that South Africans needed us to sing, because they can sing. They're the most singingest people in Africa. The Black South Africans have some of the best music, in particular vocal music. They can really sing. Some of the people in Africa, my God, I can't believe we came from there. If you heard them sing off key and off pitch, I mean, I tell you something, I believe in God, but the last time I was in an African church that says I'm gonna be an atheist if I hear another song. It was just off key. It's like, God, we came from them. I don't see it. Not to sing like this. And this lady told me as I was walking away, another choir is going to sing. I says, ma'am, I'm not going to be a Christian if I sit here for another choir.
Wow.
And it let me go. It was just terrible.
Well, you know what? We've been on there for a while.
Sure, and I have another interview to do. So I'm more than happy to stop now.
We're about to stop this thing right here, and I appreciate you.
You have to tell them my Cash App. Do that. I absolutely. My thing is, I need books. Books are expensive.
Got you.
And just to keep on top, and there's so much stuff that people lie about. So I absolutely want people who want to see us continue to have these kinds of conversations that are informed
Absolutely.
to do the right thing. My Cash App is $DrRandyShort, Dr. Randy Short,
Sure.
or a PayPal is WRandyShort@gmail.com. Everything that people do allows for me to do like independent research because
Right.
I can't even keep up. It's like this slave Bible says, I know I have to have this. That's another $30 to keep
Right.
buying it.
Right. Right.
Wasn't it good that I could show it to you versus
Absolutely.
tell you about it?
Right.
That is what a lot of your Black intellectuals have to do is you have to be your own library, your own repository. And if
Right.
you don't buy it, someone else will.
Right.
And a lot of our books are only printed one edition. And if you don't get it, you're never going to get it.
Right.
The Harold Cruz PDF that I sent you, you're
Right.
blessed. Those books used to be $2, $3. Now it's jumped to $12, $16, $30, $40 for the book because they're not reprinted. And that's part of the oppression here is one, a lot of our people aren't motivated to read or research or buy. So the book isn't in large, it's not printed in large amounts. And then other people hustle to the information, so they're not buying it, putting it in the library. So printers don't print too many of them.
Right.
And once people find out what it's worth, you'd be amazed when I look at books that used to sell for $1, $2, $3, they're 50, they're 60, they're 100, they're 150. You're like, if I don't get it, I'll never have it. And it's amazing. So there's a strong thing about needing to vindicate arguments because everything I'm saying is counter-hegemonic. It's going against the grain.
Right.
It's going against the standard narrative. And if I can't prove it, or at least produce a source, people can dismiss you. So
Absolutely.
again, Dr. Randy Short, that's a Cash App. WRandyShort@gmail.com is a PayPal.
Right.
And absolutely, you have no idea, brother. I've got like about 3 tranches of books. I have to figure out how I'm going to get $1,100 worth of books. And then where I'm going to put them once I have them, because each one does a different thing.
Right.
There's one other book I want to throw at you. I was able to get this one. Someone, and this is the other thing that happens. Do you see what this is?
Harvard University.
Yes, Harvard University got rid of this book called what? Negro Thought in America.
Well, okay.
How could they do that?
Right.
So if you get bigoted librarians, they get rid of the Black books in the libraries. I was able to get this book for about $1. It's hardbound. I couldn't believe it. When I looked and saw Harvard University, Gutman Library, this is a library I used to go in. Wow. But this book is, let me tell you what it is. It's a worthwhile book.
Was it written by, let me see, August Meyer? Okay.
But the title.
Negro Thought in America, 1880 to 1915. Wow. Yeah.
It's a wonderful start if people are interested in what we're thinking about.
Right.
And before I go, I want to remind people, this is on Amazon.
Right. Spartacus, the real Cory Booker story.
Yeah, he's a Trojan horse, and this is the original cover. I have a newer cover, Slavery's Mastery.
So the impact of religious slavery revealed. Right, and you can get them both on Amazon.
Yes, absolutely.
Right,
and I get very good ratings from the 14 people that took the time to write a review. So I look forward to that, and we should next time we talk, we need to talk about how we can work together versus talking about what's negative. But when you ask, I'm going to tell you, tell you the truth. Okay.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. And I appreciate the time that you took in so far. And in the description of the video, I'm going to put your Cash App and then the PayPal and then Amazon with those books.
Yes, and definitely, I absolutely. In fact, I want to go over to Europe.
Absolutely.
I've got a friend that I want you to meet who's in the UK.
Right.
You would really love this brother. And he gets it that we need to work towards reciprocal Pan-Africanists.
Right. I like the way you put it. Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree with
yes,
you.
I'm
Right,
not saying no.
right,
I'm not
right.
saying no. I
I
love
like right,
Africa. The last two women I've liked are African.
right,
Most of my friends are African. Uh, but I
right,
have to be real about this.
right,
And we've got to work something out. We can do better. Hmm?
right, right.
Okay,
Absolutely.
let me let you go, brother.
All right, my brother. So thank you.
Peace.
Appreciate you.
All right.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Let me see.